Lawmakers and the governor may have ended the session with a balanced budget, but the aftermath of what was created is now falling on Oklahoma's elderly and disabled. In past years, the Oklahoma Department of Human Services has taken administrative cuts to deal with the budget shortfall. But now DHS says the most vulnerable Oklahomans and those who provide services to them will bear the burden of what lawmakers have handed them.
We're all getting new kitchens.
Carolyn Allen lives in government housing for the disabled. She has no family to help her navigate life and is dependent on her home health care provider, who is paid under Oklahoma's Advantage Waiver program.
She does almost everything for me. She does all of the housework. She does all of my errands. She does my food shopping.
She has been told the Oklahoma Department of Human Services is looking at reducing the number of people served and other deep cost-cutting measures. Carolyn doesn't blame DHS, she blames lawmakers.
It absolutely stinks. It seems that it's always the people who need it the most get cut the worst.
Cherie Powell is the spokesperson for DHS.
So we've made a lot of deep administrative cuts over the past several years. Unfortunately, you can't do those things twice. The only place we have left to save any substantial amounts of money is in our programs and services.
Powell says carving $33 million out of the DHS budget for services will be difficult. That's because 1/3 of the budget pays for child welfare services and 2/3 of the money goes to the aging and the disabled.
Primarily those home and community-based services that are funded through Medicaid. But the state match for those services is very high. That's where a good majority of our state dollars are in the DHS budget, are in aging and developmental disability services. It's simply not possible to protect those entire programs and all of those services and not touch child welfare services. It's simply not possible to achieve $33 million in savings.
The state is under a court order to improve child welfare services, and that takes money, a lot of it.
It's great, I think, that we're improving child welfare services, but it's coming at the expense of other vulnerable populations in the state.
John Gajda is the executive director of TARC, an advocacy and resource organization for families raising children with developmental disabilities. DHS's Department of Disability Services is also being considered for a cut in services. Gajda blames lawmakers for sidestepping their obligations to pay for core human services.
It's a moral failure on their part. Everybody says that they want to do what's right, and they feel sorry when family members come back and say, I talked to my legislator, and they said, I really want to help you, but we just don't have the revenue. Well, do something about it.
Gajda points out that even before the current DHS budget, the state was failing the disabled. He says many parents of children with disabilities have been waiting for years to get help in caring for their loved ones.
Right now we have just under 6,000 people that are being served in the community waiver program, and we have an additional 7,500 who are waiting for services, who have been applied as much as 11 years ago to get services and have at this point no hope of ever getting them.
A reduction in services to the vulnerable also affects the economy. Oxford Healthcare provides home health care to those who need it. 80% of its business is supported through the Advantage Waiver program.
Agencies like ours can't sustain if we care for less and less people.
Steve Goforth is the president of Oxford Healthcare and also represents members of the Home and Community-Based Services Council.
We estimate that there's 10,000 employees in the Advantage Waiver and State Plan Personal Care Program. Their jobs are in jeopardy as well.
But Goforth says what is more concerning is the 3,600 frail people in Oklahoma who rely on Advantage Waiver.
They're either going to go into a nursing facility at 300% the cost of home care services, or they're just going to sit there in their home wither away, and many will die as a result of this. It's that serious.
A more daunting budget scenario for DHS is if the new cash-generating tobacco fee of $1.50 a pack violates the state's constitution. Cigarette companies and other interested parties have filed a lawsuit to block the new law, saying it's really a tax and needed a supermajority to pass. The tobacco fee only required a simple majority. If the fee is successfully challenged, it will take an additional $69 million out of the DHS budget.
A significant portion of our appropriation comes from the cigarette fee. So the legislature would have to reconvene and figure out how to fill that enormous hole.
Big Tobacco's after that one, and if that goes down and there's no longer that revenue source, they're going to have to go back into special session.
The Oklahoma Supreme Court will hear oral arguments regarding the tobacco fee on August 8th. The fee is scheduled to take effect August 24th.